I don't know about you, but I'm pretty heartbroken to see that we still have warfare in this day and age that we live in, between, recent events with the Gaza war, the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which have been heavily on the news, along with so many other points of conflict, war, and just so much friction and discord. So how do we get here as humanity? Like, how are we here on a macro level having global warfare the way that we do? Let's go ahead and take that understanding to see how we could relinquish that, and on a micro level, on a personal level, on a relational level, to change and transform so that we may be part of the reason why we could start seeing more peace on this world. So the scripture that I'm going to share today, and then we'll get into the psychological ties of that, starts with Matthew 5:38 to 39. You have heard that it is said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Oof, that's a tall order. So I'm sure we've all heard eye for an eye. It's a very famous quote. It comes from the Old Testament and some of the teachings about how to just like keep the score even in a way. But Jesus comes and says, no. We're going to do something different. Don't bring friction or resistance into it. Don't bring more conflict into the issue. Learn a different approach. When someone comes, or an evil person comes and hits you or does harm to you, turn the other cheek. Just surrender to the pain. Surrender to the abuse. Surrender to the evil act or the cruel act. That's a tall order. That's really hard. I remember when I first read this, I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I'm just going to sit there and just be a doormat and just be weak and just have someone like hurt me and hit me. Like, that's not okay. But then when I started looking at the micro to the macro, or like just starting on one-on-one relationships and seeing how one-on-one relationships result in the global experience that we have, it's the concept of learning how to overcome conflict and friction. It's learning how to bring peace. This is one of the core teachings of bringing peace into this world. Now, a group of people who really who really embodied that were the Tibetan Buddhists, that really embody the concept of peace, because they work with karma and they don't want to create any karmic clusters. I call it karma clusters, and I'll get into what I mean by that stuff in a different video. But they were not resisting how they were being taken over by the government. They didn't add to the warfare. They didn't fight back. They just walked away and left. And that's one of the hardest things for us to do, especially in these high achieving cultures, dog eat dog cultures, competitive cultures, having to be number one, these hierarchical cultures that we're in. We struggle in that area. We feel defeated and weak if we were to do something like turn the other cheek. But let's bring that into a relationship, right? So couples, for example, I don't know if you've ever seen this meme, so I'm going to meme bomb you for a second. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy, right? Power struggles happen all the time amongst couples, all the time. It's one of the most prevalent pain points among all couples out there. And that's because it gets transactional. And it gets to this point of eye for an eye. It's like, oh, okay, well, you didn't do this. Well, I'm not going to do this. Well, you did this, then I'm going to do this. You didn't take the trash out. I'm not going to wash the dishes. You took some extra time with your self-care. Well, I'm going to take extra time for self-care. What's authentic about that? You know, is that really who you are? Is that really how you want to live? It's all conflict and friction, and it's never ending, because you're going to do eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, a slight for a slight, a pain point for a pain point, and it just keeps escalating, and it goes from maybe minor nagging and annoyance to arguments, and sometimes it can get violent and abusive. This is a way to stop the escalation of an argument. And it takes a lot of strength to do something like that. It takes a lot of strength to turn the other cheek. There's nothing weak about turning the other cheek. You know, I can think of a time where I had an issue with a family member who I just wanted to help. I was asked to help, and I was hurt along the way because the person was hurt. You know, hurt people hurt people. It took a lot for me to take a step back and just say, like, okay, you know what? I don't need to be in the line of fire, but I'm not going to hurt back. So, you know, as you see in my videos, I always say, hey, may peace be with you. That's usually my way of turning the other cheek. May peace be with you. I don't want to get involved in this. I don't want to change who I am. I am not that person, so I choose to stay authentic to myself. My goal and role was to help somebody, but someone hurt me because they're hurting, and that's all they knew what to do in the moment. So my way of turning the other cheek was to just walk away. I didn't hurt them back, even though I was very hurt in the process. And that created peace in my family. It created a situation where we could come to family gatherings, come to family situations, be in each other's presence, have conversations with each other, get to a point of apologies and forgiveness with some time passing, and not feel uncomfortable, awkward, or angry every time I'm confronted with this family member. It took a lot of strength and humility within myself to be able to do something like that, because there was no reason for me to be hurt along the way. I'm sure you can relate to something like that. Now, with one of my couples, for example, really struggle in this area, which is unfortunate because they can get along in so many ways until they're we can even call this your ego, right? Your ego comes in and getting in the way because there's the part of you that doesn't want to feel less than in the relationship, that doesn't want to feel vulnerable in the relationship, that feels that you might be taking advantage of, or that you feel like you need to protect yourself. They'll keep fighting with each other. This couple that I work with, they're both highly educated professionals, highly successful professionals, and so they're both really used to being in boss mode. And when it came to their relationship, they constantly clashed with each other. And it was unfortunately an ego war between the two of them, because neither one of them wanted to forgive and forget. Both of them needed to have the upper hand. So, you know, at first it started with arguments. Then it turned into cold wars where they weren't talking with each other. Then it turned into more vulgar language. And then it eventually turned into very humiliating situations and public situations where, you know, they were like putting each other down, having one person kind of prostrate to the other. If you don't know what that means, it's kind of like bow down to the other. It was very, very humiliating and belittling to one another. Nobody wins when both of them keep trying to get an upper hand, and they weren't able to enjoy their a very, very high level life that they created with each other, because nobody in the equation had the capacity to turn the other cheek. And that resulted, unfortunately, in a lot of infidelity, a lot of loneliness, and some abuse and trauma as a result of it. So that's just on a micro scale with a couple and a family. And I didn't work with them long enough to see the impacts on their children, but you know, I'm sure at some point, unfortunately, they may have resulted to domestic violence. The children are being exposed to this, and then the cycles of trauma repeat. So Jesus was teaching us ways to be like, hey, it stops here. It stops with you. Let's stop the cycle of violence. Let's stop the cycle of abuse. Let's stop the cycle of warfare and conflict. because these dynamics of eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth are the core reasons why we have so much warfare in this world today. It's all conflict. So Jesus was teaching us conflict resolution and how powerful it is to be able to turn the other cheek, walk away, and choose to not change yourself or become a vengeful person yourself by choosing not to participate in evil or in violence. So hopefully these teachings today connected with just world events, the world we live in these days, the teachings from Jesus, and some psychological approaches to add to that helped you to also find a way to overcome any improper, hurtful, or inappropriate behavior that's happening towards you, and find your strength within yourself to turn the other cheek, walk away, choose your peace. All right? Thank you, and may peace be with you.